Mr. Lorino,
Senses love, but he's absent.
Mr. Toledano,
Present.
Miss Blanchard,
Present.
Mr. Stefanczyk,
Present.
Mr. Tanner,
Here.
Mr. Groby, Mr. Canulet,
He'll be late.
Mr. Belisario,
Here.
Miss O'Brien,
Here.
Mr. Bender,
Here.
Mr. Smith.
Here.
You have a quorum.
Thank you. First item on the agenda is a presentation and proclamation to St. Tammany Parish Government Employee of the Month. Ms. Brister.
Mr. Chairman, if I could just take 1 minute before we present the Employee of the Month. A couple of things. You see, we have several veterans here with us tonight, and we always thank you for what you do for all of us in your service to this country. And with that, thank you. With that being said, I have some flyers I'm going to leave out, but there will be a fundraiser, Ride Drive, sponsored by the American Legion, Riders Post 185. It's Saturday, May 20th, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. So please, if you want more information, I'm sure these gentlemen have lots of information they can give you, but please try to go by and support our veterans as they've always supported us. So thank you for letting me have that minute to do that. Thank you, guys. Secondly, unfortunately, I have some bad news to report, and that is our friend Bruce Wayner. His father has passed away. Lester Wayner has been ill for some time, and he passed away last night. So please remember the Wayner family in your prayers. They've always been wonderful citizens in this parish and have been more than generous with their time and their resources. So please remember them. So now to our Employee of the Month. Come on up, Sabrina. Whereas Sabrina Shink has been a dedicated employee with St. Tammany Parish government since March of 2003 and is currently the Watershed Coordinator and Interim Coastal Program Manager for the Department of Development. And whereas Sabrina has developed a strong municipal separate storm sewer system program, including regular reporting to the Department of Environmental Quality, the creation of a quarterly reporting system involving numerous parish employees across several departments, the creation and maintenance of an inspector training program for parish inspectors, and continually maintain strong relationships with outside agencies regarding water quality issues. And whereas she is skilled at explaining technical, scientific issues to other staff members and makes recommendations to staff based on research and experience. And whereas Sabrina was the technical mind behind the drafting and completion of the recently adopted stormwater ordinance and has also taken on the drafting of the parish's drainage ordinance associated with the Development Code Rewrite Program. And whereas, in the absence of a coastal program manager, not only has Sabrina willingly taken on the permitting responsibilities associated with this role, but she quickly learned the program and even cleaned up a backlog of outstanding permit issues. And whereas Sabrina's customer service approach is outstanding, she takes time to listen to customers and explain the reasoning behind our regulations in a respectful, professional way when necessary. Her attitude is always positive, and she willingly takes direction and constructive criticism from her supervisor. Not all of us are good at that, Sabrina. Whereas Sabrina is an overall outstanding and an exemplary employee, and we are extremely proud and fortunate to have her on the St. Tammany Parish government team. So now therefore, I, Patricia Brister, as president of St. Tammany Parish, do hereby recognize the hard work and accomplishments of Sabrina Shink, Employee of the Month for May 2017. And I encourage all employees of St. Tammany Parish to thank her for her contributions and commitments to St. Tammany Parish. Thank you, Sabrina, for all you do. Thank you. Thank you, Sabrina, very much. Thank you.
Next on the agenda is a presentation and proclamation to DeJune Richardson, senior at Covington High School, as the Louisiana Poetry Out Loud State Champion.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Dejanay and Deanna, would you like to come up with your daughter? I think that's very important that you be with her also. I'm particularly proud to present this proclamation. At my first inauguration ceremony, some of you may remember, there was a little girl that stood on that stage and beautifully recited a poem without a mistake or without a pause. So that young girl has grown into a beautiful young woman, and we thank you very much for being with us tonight. So I have a proclamation, and this is Deanna, her mother. Whereas on March 13, 2017, Covington High School student Dejanay Richardson placed first at the Louisiana State Poetry Out Loud competition at the Capitol Park Museum in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, first place. And whereas Poetry Out Loud encourages students to learn about great poetry through memorization and recitation, and helps students master public speaking skills, build self-confidence, and learn about literary history and contemporary life. And whereas Ms. Richardson is only the second person from St. Tammany Parish to win the state competition. And whereas Ms. Richardson went on to represent the state of Louisiana at the 2017 National Poetry Out Loud Championship in Washington, D.C., making it to the top 8 of round 2 finals. And whereas Dejanay Richardson is an outstanding and talented young woman, and we're proud to have her represent St. Tammany Parish in our great state of Louisiana. Now, therefore, I, Patricia Brister, as president of St. Tammany Parish, do hereby recognize the hard work and accomplishments of Dejanay Richardson, and I encourage all our residents of St. Tammany to acknowledge her for her achievements and commitment to the art of poetry. Dejanay, thank you very much, and congratulations. She did bring her plaque that she won, her award, so let everybody see that, and then we're going to take another picture of it.
Did you bring her poem?
Pardon?
Did you bring her poem?
Did you bring your point?
It's up here.
She doesn't read. She can
Yeah,
recite
I don't
better than I
read
can
it.
read. So, if you'd like to recite, you could, if you want. Let's take this picture first. Oh, there, thank you. Thank you, Dejanay. Would you like to recite your poem? Let me get this out of your way. There you go. It's all yours. Thank you.
American Smooth by Rita Dove. We were dancing. It must have been a foxtrot or a waltz. Something romantic, but requiring restraint. Rise and fall, precise execution as we moved into the next song without stopping. 2 chests heaving above a 7-league stride. Such perfect agony. One learns to smile through ecstatic mimicry, being the sine qua non of American Smooth. And because I was distracted by the effort of keeping my frame, the leftward lean, head turned just enough to gaze out past your ear and always smiling. Smiling. I didn't notice how still you'd become until we had done it for 2 measures. 4. Achieved flight, that swift and serene magnificence. Before the earth remembered who we were and brought us down. Thank you all and I would like to apologize in advance, but I have to go to a talented music recital, so I won't be able to stay for the whole program. But thank you all for having me.
Thank you.
The next presentation will be rescheduled to sometime in the future. Mr. John Raymond could not be here tonight. He's from the Community Action Advisory Board. So we're going to the consent calendar. Any items not pulled from the consent calendar are automatically approved in whole by one vote. Items pulled from the consent calendar are discussed and voted upon individually. So we have the following items to pull. On ordinances for introduction, we have number 1, ordinance calendar number 5800, ordinance calendar number 4, 5803, number 7 is ordinance calendar 5806. Under resolutions, we have item 2 is C4798, item 3, C4807, item 4, C4808, item 6, C4810, item 18, C4822, item 22, C4826. So anyone have anything else? Mr. Dean, Mr. Sharp, Mr. Thompson, Mr. Toledano, Ms. Blanchard,
Yes, sir.
Mr. Tanner,
No, sir.
Ms. Groby.
Item number 19 under calendar, ordinance for introduction, please.
Item number 19, ordinance,
Calendar number 5818.
okay? Okay, is that all, Jake?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Belisario? Ms. O'Brien?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Bender?
No, sir.
Mr. Smith? Staff have any? Audience have any? Thank you. We will be pulling those items for discussion. Need a motion to approve the consent calendar, all the other items that were not pulled.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Dean. Any discussion? Before we vote, I'm going to tell you tonight we have a problem with our voting machines again this month. You will not see the vote displayed on the TV consoles. We are in the process of trying to get a new speaker system and new microphone system installed here, and hopefully it'll be in. I'd like to have it next month. It may not make it until July. So that's where we are. Until we get that in, we've lost some pieces. I mean, we can't find pieces to make our current system work. So what we will be able to do is see how many votes were cast and how many were for or against. So, but we have to record every vote by district, by person who voted for it and person who voted against it. The names have to be down there. So what we're going to do tonight is go through the process, and if I see that one of those votes is less than the other one, like the for or against, I will ask the people who voted against or voted for, whichever way it is, to raise their hands. We will count only those votes. You can assume that everybody else voted the other way, because that's what we're looking at. So I just wanted to make that clear before we vote. So tonight, please vote on the consent calendar.
Coming up.
I need one more vote, please.
See, we don't know who's voted, so who hasn't voted?
Mr. Lorino's absent. Not here.
We
I
got,
have 11 votes. I only have 2 absent.
somebody
Okay,
hasn't voted,
somebody,
guys.
they voted now. Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Thank you. That's how we're going to get through the night.
lot of fun.
Okay, ordinances for introduction. Item number 1, ordinance calendar number 5800, ordinance to amend the St. Tammany Parish Code of Ordinances, Chapter 2, Administration, Article 3, Parish Council to make changes relative thereto. I have one speaker, Brandon Hirstus. Is that Brandon? You need to come to the microphone, yes.
This ordinance is about open mic and stuff. Is it for after the meetings? Am I correct?
It's a change in the way, and that we have an ordinance for introduction tonight that is a change in the way that we allocate time and stuff for people to talk.
To speak on stuff not on the agenda, correct?
There is an item in here in this ordinance that will cover that.
That's what I'm saying. That's in there right now. And that's what I'm going to speak about is we voted on it, you know, a long time ago, and it was worded kind of fishy, and people voted against it. But everybody I spoke to said they'd like to speak, you know, on things not on the agenda with an open mic. So there's no other way for people to speak to this council. I've gave every one of y'all in your mailbox some stuff on CLECO and WST, and no one responded to me. So how can you speak to the council without doing this? You know, so I say it should be an open mic, you know, where people can talk about stuff after, I guess, after the meeting's over with and all. That isn't on the agenda, because as right now, all you can do is talk to the council with permission. And then it's got to be authorized by another councilman and stuff and all just to even get on the agenda. So otherwise, you can't speak to nobody. And when you do, y'all don't answer us anyway, because I proved that when I gave the letters to every one of y'all in your mailbox about CLECO being so high compared to WST. But then again, I guess it was Pat went with CLECO for the school, and they so much higher. And I got proof saying that they will continue to be lower than CLECO in 10 years. So anyway, that's what I wanted to speak about, that I think that we ought to be able to speak to y'all without asking permission. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm going to respond to you because I think you need to understand this ordinance is here. It is a requirement of state law that anything that comes onto this agenda that's not printed ahead of time and published can only be heard by this council if every council member here in attendance votes in favor of that. And that's what's in here tonight. I think Mr. Hand that's what's in here tonight. And looking at it, may or may not get through the process as we go forward. This thing is for introduction tonight. So understand that there's two things that control what we do here in this parish. One of them is state law and the other one's our charter. And those two we have to meet no matter what. Okay? So I want you to be aware of that. It may or may not end up in the final draft. We're going to be looking at that.
Can you tell me how you can speak to the council anytime?
You can't. Basically, state law says you can't come and put something on the agenda without us publicizing it, because people can. And here's the rationale behind that. I'm going to take a little bit of time and explain. But the rationale is when we post an agenda, people can come up and talk about any of those items. Okay? If you want to bring something off the floor, they feel that it's not fair to the people who didn't know that that was coming up here and might have been to the meeting to be able to talk about it, whichever way they wanted to talk about it. So we've got to abide by those laws. And I'm just
saying that open mic where anybody can discuss stuff after the meeting is not as an agenda, just an open mic to speak to every one of y'all instead of just speaking to the one councilman, and then for him to relay it to everybody.
And that's
all here. So why can't the public,
well,
which is important for the public, speak to you At the end of the meeting, say.
That's part of this ordinance that we're introducing tonight.
I'm trying to.
My suggestion to you is, at the end of this month, the last Wednesday of this month, I believe, would be, is it the last Wednesday or the next to the last one? That will be our agenda review committee, and that's where this thing will be discussed. So if you want to come in and talk about it, that would be a good time to talk about it. Okay? Bring your points in.
Everybody knows
Thank you.
you can't speak to the council without being on the agenda.
Right now, that's the case, because that's where we are.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Stefanski.
Mr.
Chair. I'm sorry. I yield to you first. Mr. Chair.
And Mr. Toledano had his, I guess he
Okay.
had his light on first. I'll call you.
Pardon me. Well, no, I'll yield to
I'm sorry.
Gene first.
That's okay, you speak.
All I was going to ask is, I didn't catch the gentleman's name, but I don't recall receiving anything that he said he put in our box.
You probably wasn't here. It's been about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Oh, that explains that. Thank you very much.
More than 2 years.
Mr. Chair, one of my questions is, where does he live? Who's his district council person? If he doesn't, that's the first step. I have constituents who call or email me to discuss issues. If you have an issue, we have done it in these meetings, you want to talk about something that's not on the agenda, you can go over to our staff, and we can provide you the information so you can meet with your councilman after the meeting or call them at a later date. It's not like you can never talk to us.
Okay. And you live in Lacombe, right?
I'm saying you can't speak to all of y'all at one time because I put it in each mailbox and got no response from none of y'all.
Mr. Chairman, I don't believe we need to,
I think we're
getting way off the
We're
subject.
asking, so
come to the agenda review committee. That's when this will be discussed. It's for introduction tonight. Okay? So I need a motion on the floor to introduce. Moved by Mr. Canulet, seconded by Ms. O'Brien. It's the amended version, yes. We all have a copy of the amended version, right?
Yes.
Okay, I think it's provided, so. Okay, next one is ordinance calendar, item number 4, ordinance calendar number 5803, ordinance to amend Parish subdivision ordinance relative to the administrative approval of minor subdivisions north of urban growth boundary line. Mr. Tanner. Moved to introduce by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? I'm sorry. It's introduced. Oh, we got Carlo wanted to speak on this.
Yes, Caller Hernandez. I guess what you should be doing, I believe, is to have this ordinance referred to the Planning Commission is what should be done here.
It will be. We got to introduce it.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. I didn't hear that in the...
Excuse me. We got to introduce it first, and then that second motion can refer it.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, it's now introduced, and then Mr. Tanner, you...
Move to refer to planning and zone.
Okay, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion on the motion to refer? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay. Item number,
You never cleared it. It wasn't clear. Up is, okay. Yeah, my light was already registered when you took this vote, so I don't think the first vote was ever cleared before she accepted this.
and you need to clear it, and we'll revote.
It's clear now.
Okay, everybody please vote.
I still need one more vote.
Somebody hasn't
I've
voted.
got it. Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay. Item number 7, ordinance calendar number 5806, amended the official parish zoning map to reclassify 12.03 acres from A1 to A2, Ward 1, District 3. Motion to introduce?
Steve, I need to amend this ordinance from, this is a typo. It should be A1 Suburban to A1A, not A2.
Okay, to A1A.
Correct.
Okay, so motion to amend by Mr. Thompson, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussions on the motion to amend? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, and then a motion by Mr. Thompson to introduce, seconded by Ms. O'Brien. That's all the ordinances for introduction. Oh, I'm sorry, 19. Ordinance calendar number 19. Ordinance calendar number 5818, ordinance to amend the 2017 operating budget, amendment number 6. Mr. Groby.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a question for the administration. On looking at item page 2 or 3, the budget numbers, is there like kind of a reason for the increase? I mean, is there some capital outlay projects that we're having to bring up the difference in? On section 19, under the Economic Development Fund, we're having to adjust the budget for it. I was just kind of wondering if there's a way we can get like some kind of maybe a one-page report of what the projects are and stuff like that, so we get a better understanding.
Councilman Groby, on the administrative comment that's attached to the ordinance, it explains that this is for the half-year operations of Kidstown, which is scheduled to open, and there's also an associated revenue for that.
Thank you. I read that. I was just wondering if maybe is there like a yearly detailed report of the projects for the economic development, Pat? I was just wondering.
For that project only, or? You're saying all economic development projects. I'm sorry, I didn't know.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to explain. I didn't know if we had a separate, not so much an itemized list, but just like a general overview of the projects that this fund covers, is what I was trying to figure out.
Economic development?
Okay, so to be clear, this fund, the Economic Development Fund, is primarily funded by a hotel motel tax from the state to be used for economic development and cultural recreation and tourism. And at the time the original budget was introduced and the budget books were placed on public notice, there was a detailed budget for this fund, and there are at least 3 different components to it. I know the fishing pier, Camp Salmon, and the Trace are the 3 primary components, along with other economic development costs. So everything was in the book.
All right, thank you.
Okay, I need a motion to introduce. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Canulette. Go to resolutions. Resolution number 2, resolution council series number 4798, a resolution to concur, not to concur with Slidell annexation and rezoning of 3 acres from Parish A3 to Slidell A6, Ward 9, District 12. Mr. Bender.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to ask our council attorney, Mr. Hand, to provide, you and I have been talking for quite a while along with Mr. Savant, and could you give us an update on where we stand legally on this matter?
There are still some issues that remain outstanding, the property description versus the description of what was actually submitted to us as far as acreage, what is to be included in this annexation. There's also the issue relative to the annexation of the water bottoms. We have never received formally a copy of that request. So at this time, I would suggest that you not concur. We can always come back and concur later.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Hand. Mr. Chairman, my motion on this resolution is to not concur.
Motion by Mr. Bender, seconded by Mr. Smith. Any discussion on the motion to not concur? Seeing none, please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Okay, next one is resolution number 3, resolution number C-4807, a resolution approving the holding of an election in Fire Protection District number 12. From Foley Jadell, I believe we have Mr. Grant Sluter.
Grant Schluter with Fuller Udell. This is for Recreation District Number 12. It's a renewal of one of their...
This is Fire Protection District number 12.
I'm sorry, Fire Protection District Number 12. It's renewal of one of their millages. It's for 10 mills, 20 years. The election date is October 14th, which is a regular election date, and there is a statewide election on that date, so there will be sharing of the election costs. The purpose is identical to the purpose for which the voters last approved this particular millage. There is a representative of the district present if you have any questions.
Anybody have any questions? Thank you. Mr. Thompson, you want to move to approve? Seconded by Mr. Dean. Any discussion on the motion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Thank you. Chief, I wasn't going to let you take over Recreation District. It's number 4, resolution number 4808, resolution approving the holding of an election in Fire Protection District number 8.
This is Fire District 8 in Abita. And it is a renewal of they have 3 taxes. This is a renewal of all 3 taxes for the same purpose, same number of years, same rate. And it is also for the October 14th election date, so there will be sharing of election costs, and the chairman is present if you have any questions.
Any questions? Anybody? Mr. Tanner? Moved by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Groby. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Resolution number 6, resolution number CS 4810, a resolution to declare the week of May 15, 2017 through May 21st as Parish Drone Awareness Week. I think we have some speakers here. Mr. Robert Bourne.
I'd like to thank the esteemed council as well as fellow citizens opportunity to speak today.
I might add you have 3 minutes.
Yes, sir. Robert Boney, resident of District 4, also a local business owner, longtime St. Tammany resident. This issue came to light, not really something I gave much thought about until my children, I have 2 10-year-olds and a 9-year-old boy and 2 girls. We're swimming one day in our pool, and all of a sudden we look up and there's a drone hovering above our pool videotaping us with a camera on my children and on myself. I got out of the pool, tried to grab the pool brush, see if I could knock it down, and went ahead and dried off. The drone hovered higher and then went ahead and went to a couple of houses behind my home. And I went ahead and followed the drone. I did encounter the gentleman along with a teenager who was operating the drone, and I asked him if he had a license and if I could see the license or his permit for flying a drone in a neighborhood as well as flying over my personal residence and videotaping. And he tried to put me off, and I said, listen, this is a serious issue. We can handle it 1 or 2 ways. I'd like to just resolve it between you and I. He said, let's do it that way. I said, would you please show me the video? This gentleman produced video on his cell phone. And I'm not sure if you have daughters or granddaughters, but produced video of my 2 daughters playing in bathing suits in the privacy of our backyard. And this was very disturbing to me at the time. I asked him to please delete it, which he did in front of me. So from then, I moved to St. Tammany Parish, away from New Orleans, for the safety to raise my children. Mandeville, which is the city I live in, it's a great place. My children go to public school. I approached Mandeville Councilman David Ellis. Our children go to the same school. Inquired as to, hey, what's on the books? What do we have here in St. Tammany Parish, city of Mandeville, to protect the citizens and namely our children? Because just within a couple of weeks, I think y'all recall, the lady had escaped out of the back of a trunk who was kidnapped at the Rouses right down the street from my house. And so, we do have a real problem with, child sex, slavery, kidnapping. I also went ahead and did a lot of research. Yes, sir. Went ahead and did a lot of research. I went ahead and pulled up just within 5 miles of my residence the National Sex Offender Registry, of which I'm not aware of any laws currently on the books if prohibit a sex offender from operating a drone. So I just feel as though we should bring some additional awareness to this. I've been in touch with the state police through colleagues of mine. I've gotten a good knowledge of laws here in the state of Louisiana, as well as video voyeurism laws through Child Sex Crimes Division of East Baton Rouge Parish. And I'm just pleading and requesting you, and I know you all want to keep our parish, our citizens, and our children safe, to please be in favor of this resolution. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you. Okay, and then Greg Gonzalez, I believe he's from the Sheriff's Department.
I'm Lieutenant
Greg, I
Greg
want to
Gonzalez.
remind you have 3 minutes as well.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That thing right in front of you notifies you when it gets down
Got it.
to
Yep.
30
Up on
seconds.
the wall, too.
The one up there.
You're wasting my time.
Thank
No,
you.
I'm kidding.
No.
Just kidding.
If I would have started the clock.
I was asked to come here by Sheriff Smith to talk about the drones, Mr. Warren. The only thing I can tell you, I can give you a little rundown on some of the laws that the FAA has come up with for drones. Unfortunately, no crimes were committed in this gentleman's case, although I have daughters and granddaughters, so I understand exactly how he feels about it. The general rule of drones, the model, they fall under a model aircraft. When you have children or young gentlemen that fly drones around your house, they're falling under a model aircraft. Unfortunately, the laws are wide-ranging, but I'm going to go over a few of the main ones. You have to be at least 13 years old to fly it. It's got to be registered through the FAA, which is done on a website. You can't fly over 400 feet. The most important one, I think, is that you can't fly over crowds. Now, whether his swimming pool and kids are considered a crowd, I don't know. That would have to be determined by someone else. So the rules for drones are very general at this point. They're still working on it. Every day brings something new. The FAA is still working on it. We have state laws that revised statute 1499 is reckless operation. Well, the drones fall under that. So if someone is doing something reckless with a drone, you can call law enforcement. They can come out. FAA advises that we find them, as this gentleman did, speak to them. Unfortunately, they don't have to have a license. A license is not required with a model aircraft. When you get into the commercial aircraft, then you have a license problem. But other than that, there's not a whole bunch the FAA is putting forth as far as rules and regulations, other than the fact that you just have to be careful. And I understand the right to privacy, and that's going to be difficult. That's going to be a tough one. So until laws are passed saying you can't fly over someone's backyard, there's really not much you can do with it at this point. That's pretty much all I have to say about it.
Thank you very much.
Sure.
Need a motion to put this on the floor, Ms. O'Brien?
Yes, but I also have a statement from Kathy Foley, who's the director of...
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Seconded by Mr. Canulet. Now,
Okay. I also have a statement from Kathy Foley, who's the Director of Recreation District 1, which is Pelican Park and Castine Center. She apologizes for not being able to make it. She had a conflict. But she wanted to have me present these different points. Public parks are natural areas for citizens to fly drones. For the safety of all citizens, most parks require that all FAA regulations are met when using a drone in a public park. One of the FAA regulations is that a drone cannot be flown over groups of people, so it cannot be used in a public park when it is busy with sports games or gatherings of people. Most parks allow drone users to fly their drone in off times, such as Sundays or during the week before 4 p.m. Users should always check with the park staff prior to flying to make sure they are adhering to FAA and park regulations. And she did want me to mention that Recreation District 1, Pelican Park, is actually in the process of master planning, and one of the items being discussed is a drone park. So if, and notice the word if developed, it would be an area for drones that would include obstacle courses and a free fly area. Now, I want to tell you, this got started when Mr. Boney contacted me. He and I are friends, and I was just very surprised. He contacted Mr. David Ellis, who was hoping to be here tonight, but he couldn't. And David had this idea. I want to credit him for doing this. I think it's important that we just make people aware of what is appropriate and make sure that somebody is not doing something that is disrespectful of someone's privacy. We want our technology to be used in a safe manner, and basically we're just saying we want everybody to, tonight our goal in essence was to raise awareness so that we can have a safe, fun summer and beyond. It's not to try to be overly strict or anything. Just be respectful of safety issues and the law, and then you can have fun with it. Thank you.
Can I say one other thing?
You come on up, because I got a question for you.
I just wanted to say that if anybody had any questions, you can contact the FAA through the website faasafety.gov.
No.
That's the best way to get the information from them.
And I did want to mention our assistants do have some links that I'm going to pass around to our council members, and hopefully we'll be able to have that posted somewhere so that people can look up the regulations.
Thank you, Mr. Canulet.
Yes.
Next.
Officer, please come back up. Have we received many phone calls about
No, sir,
this?
not at this time. We checked on that today, and the phone calls, I think we've had 2 out of Slidell.
So the other thing that concerns me about, I don't mind the drones as so much as I mind the videotaping.
Right.
So, a question. If the drone was hovering over my house and it just happened to have a bad accident and lose control and I run over with my lawnmower, am I responsible for that drone?
Well, that would be a civil matter, because I would imagine that the drone owner would consider you responsible for it.
I would hope he would,
Yes,
yes.
so, but that would be something that would have to be handled civil.
Okay, thank you. I do have one question for Terry. So is there any way to look at putting something together with involving the videoing from this incident?
There are existing revised statutes relative to that constitute trespass. The difficulty is, from a law enforcement standpoint, is do you have to obtain a search warrant, things of that nature? How do you actually enforce it? So it becomes problematic. But there's already some statutes on the books relative to that, and it basically comes under criminal trespass in the videoing and all. So I think the state of Louisiana has in fact addressed it already. It's nothing that, because this is first a federal issue with the FAA, and then the state stepped in to do what they could. I don't think there's anything left for the council to do. I think everything, if we're going to try to do anything, it would be through the state legislature.
Since all the lights are off, I assume, Mr. Dean.
You know, I couldn't let this go. I just wanted to point out what just happened. A gentleman called his council member who put something on the agenda, and it was heard. So this gentleman was able to talk to the council member. That's how it happened.
Thank you. No other comments? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
18, and item 18, Resolution C-4822, resolution to concur, not to concur with the Avita Springs annexation and rezoning of 30.2 acres from Parish A1A to Avita Springs Planned Unit Development District, Ward 4, District 5. Mr. Toledano. You either concur or not to concur.
Move to concur. Thank you.
Move to concur by Mr. Toledano, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Please vote.
Yes.
With a verbal vote for Mr. Dean, motion is unanimous, two absent.
Item number 22, resolution number C-4826, a resolution to concur with the zoning commission approval for plan review of use of 13.15 acres, Ward 1, District 1. I think I have a note that says Don will explain this.
Yes, sir. Last month, we introduced in error an ordinance on this particular issue, and it should have been more appropriately handled by a resolution. That's what this resolution is doing. Later on in the ordinances for adoption, ORCAL number 5798, which was introduced last month, we're recommending that be removed and replaced by this resolution.
Okay, Mr. Tanner?
Move for the resolution.
Motion to adopt the resolution, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Please vote.
Mr. Chairman, I'll be recusing myself.
I'm sorry. Yes, you have to. Okay.
Motion passes with 12 yeas, one recusal, one absent.
Thank you. We're now to appeals. I'd read all the rules about appeals, but I understand the one tonight's going to be postponed.
Yeah, that's correct, Mr. Sfonzik. The parties in interest, i.e. the property owners and the developers, are still working together. They're close to a resolution, and they're asking that we postpone it tonight, and therefore my motion is to so postpone.
Postpone to next meeting, right?
Correct.
Okay, motion by Mr. Okay, second by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Motion to postpone. Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
All right, we're on ordinances for adoption. Ordinance calendar number 5788 to revoke a portion of Hickory Street right-of-way located in Ozone Park Subdivision, Ward 4, District 5.
So move.
Motion by Mr. Toledano, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5789, an ordinance to establish a no parking zone on McIntyre Road and on Stella Lane, Wards 6 and 10, District 6.
Question, who introduced this ordinance? Where did it come from?
I can't answer that. I know I should have all those answers, but I don't.
I moved to postpone until I find out what the story is.
Motion to postpone by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion on the motion to postpone? Please vote to postpone.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5790 to authorize the parish president to purchase certain servitudes for the benefit of Lake Village Drainage Improvements Project, Ward 8, District 8. Motion by Mr. Canulette, seconded by Ms. Blanchard. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5791, an ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 14.86 acres from A1 to A1A, Ward 6, District 6. Motion by Mr. Tanner to approve, seconded by Mr. Roby. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5792, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 1.45 acres from A1A to A3, Ward 7, District 7.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Groby, seconded by, seconded by Mr. Dean. I have one speaker card, Charles Shepard.
I don't think you look at it right, no.
Charles, you have 3 minutes.
I don't need that much time. I was just wanting to have it rezoned because it's mostly too large for me and my wife to take care of, and both lots would still remain residential.
Thank you.
Thank you.
That's the kind of speakers I like. Any further discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5793, ordinance amending the official parish zoning map to reclassify 3.7 acres from A2 to HC2, Ward 6, District 6. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Groby. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5794, ordinance to amend the 2017 operating budget amendment number 5. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Canulette. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5795, an ordinance to amend the 2016 operating budget amendment number 16. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Miss O'Brien, I think, had her hand up first. So, any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, one absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5797 to amend Parish CS number 3689 and code section 8-50.00 to adopt the most current version of the National Fire Protection Life Safety Code and the National Fire Protection Fire Code, and permit Fire District Number 2 to adopt the most recent edition of NFPA 101 and NFPA 1 point.
So moved.
Motion by Mr. Belisario, seconded by Mr. Canulette. Any discussion? Please vote.
Need one more vote, please.
Jerry just walked out. I have.
Jerry is active.
Anybody that looks at their lights, see if they voted? Okay, so Jerry must not have.
Motion is unanimous, two absent.
Okay. Ordinance number 10 is ordinance calendar number 5798, approving plan review of use of 13.15 acres, Ward 1, District 1, and this is the resolution that, or this is the thing that we need to remove. Motion by Mr. Tanner to remove, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion on the motion to remove?
I'll recuse myself again,
Okay.
please.
Mr. Dean needs to recuse himself. Please vote.
Motion passes with 1 recusal and 2 absent.
Ordinance calendar number 5799, ordinance amending official parish zoning map to reclassify 2.879 acres from NC6 and A2 to NC4, Ward 6, District 6. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Thompson. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Under appointments, a resolution to appoint Brandon Harrell to replace Victor Lamont, resigned on the Board of Commissioners for Parish Recreation District Number 11. Mr. Tanner. Motion by Mr. Tanner, seconded by Mr. Belisario. Any discussion? Please vote.
Need some more votes, please. Oh, no, we don't. Yeah. Motion is unanimous, 3 absent.
Okay, under items off the floor, we have one that was turned in on time, resolution to vacate in part the 6-month moratorium with a portion of within a portion of voting precinct number 914. Mr. Smith.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman, we would like to bring this motion off the floor, make a motion to bring it off the floor.
I'll second.
Motion by Mr. Smith, seconded by Mr. Belisario to allow this item on the floor. So remember, this requires a unanimous vote of everybody here.
Motion is unanimous, 2 absent.
Okay, Mr. Smith?
Yes, sir, I'd like to.
The resolution is to vacate in part the 6-month moratorium established by Ordinance Calendar Series Number 173654 and any subsequent extensions thereof for the limited purpose of allowing the issuance of permits for construction or placement of building structures within a portion of voting precinct District 914. Motion by Mr. Smith to approve, seconded by Mr. Canulet. Any discussion? Please vote.
Motion is unanimous, 1 absent.
Any other items to be brought up off the floor? Mr. Dean? Mr. Sharp? Mr. Thompson? Mr. Toledano? Ms. Blanchard?
No.
Mr. Tanner?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Roby? Oops, not there. Mr. Canulet? Mr. Belisario?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Henderson has a birthday at the end of this month. We won't be presiding until afterwards. So I brought him a little gift for his birthday. I want him to open up his card and read it, then he can show his gift.
Wait a minute, we haven't voted on this unanimously yet. Okay.
You have to read the card first, or have Ashley read it.
We should have Ashley read it.
Well, while he's trying to learn how to read that, Ms. O'Brien, you have anything?
No, sir.
Mr. Bender?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
I'll wait for Mr. Henderson to read his hopefully G-rated card. It is.
You're supposed to read it out loud.
G for G.
6, money, power, respect. 4 things you're probably not going to get on your birthday.
Thank you. Mr. Bender? You can quit laughing, you can come.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, if I may, I'd just like to tell Mr. Henderson he should save that for Jean's birthday. Reusable, recyclable, you know?
Okay.
Yeah, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to put a resolution out there to name June St. Tammany Drone Awareness Shoot-Down Month.
I second that.
I'm just kidding.
Mr. Smith? Thank you. Staff have anything else? The motion to adjourn?
Second.
No, nothing on the agenda will adjourn the meeting. Thank you.